Everyone, we're going to open the zoning board of appeals meeting. My name is Howard Tracer, I'm the chairman. To my right is Doug Packer, and to my left is Eric Spahn. Sue Noyce is our administrative assistant, and George Morse is a planning board liaison. So he is not a voting member, he's just here to observe. And I'd also like to announce that Elaine Baker, who is a regular member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, has recused herself from this hearing and all hearings regarding this applicant. Sue's already told you that all the hearings will be recorded and they will be available on the website and on TV. So we're here tonight for Byfield Estates LLC, 55R Pearson Drive, Byfield, Assessors Map R20-0-75. The applicant is requesting a comprehensive permit under the Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Section 20-23, or the Comprehensive Permit Law, to construct 24 home ownership style single-family units. So on the agenda tonight, our town council, Jenny Kramer, who's running late and stuck in traffic, and hopefully she'll be here in a few minutes, is going to give an overview of the 40B process and how things progress from the start to where we are now. Unfortunately, Paul Haverty, who is our 40B consultant, couldn't make the meeting tonight. He will be at subsequent meetings. After Ginny is done with the presentation, we're going to ask the applicant to present their project. And then the board members may or may not comment tonight or ask questions. And after that, we will take comments and questions from the audience. You raise your hand if you would. And when you're acknowledged, you can go to the microphone and state your name and address, and then you can make your comments. All likelihood, we won't be discussing any specifics tonight. They'll be addressed at following meetings, and we'll announce what we'll be discussing at each meeting. So hopefully, Ginny will be here in a couple of minutes and we'll get started. And introduce Ginny Kramer, the town council, and she's going to speak to you.
Hi, my name is Ginny Kramer. I've been serving as Newbury's town council with the former town council since 2005, so a long time now. Paul Haverty, who some of you may have met and remember, is actually, he's the attorney with very substantial experience in 40B matters, so he's going to be lead counsel for this project. But I'm also going to be working with him and being kept informed of what's going on. So I wanted to come tonight and just give you an overview of Chapter 40B and just some information on the process so that you can understand. It's a complicated area of law, and I'm sure that you all know it can be very controversial. So just wanted to orient you legally to where 40B comes from, what its purpose is, and what that means as the town goes through this process. So Chapter 40B is a state law that all Massachusetts cities and towns have to comply with. We all know how high housing costs are in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and 40B was designed as a response to those high costs. And what it was meant to do and what it's supposed to do is put the need for housing for families of low and moderate income ahead of other concerns, other local concerns, unless there's basically overwhelming evidence that the other current concerns need to be prioritized. So every time that there's any kind of development or building, direct abutters or people in the area are going to have concerns about what that's going to mean for them. But 40B gives developers of low and moderate income housing more room to move forward with their plan to build this housing than somebody just developing a market rate house will. And that's just a state law. It's not something that the town can choose to ignore. And it's got, has a very long history and state agencies that implement it, as well as court decisions that have ruled on, when the local town or city tries to prevent or severely limit, restrain a project. Those decisions have largely come down in favor of developers due to the purpose of the law, which is prioritizing housing, development of housing for low and moderate income people who otherwise may not have any place to live. Now, there is more breathing room for communities that have met certain targets of the development of low and moderate income housing. So once you have enough in town, and enough is never enough, but they have certain benchmarks that if you reach them, then the town would have much more leeway in terms of molding the project to their liking, or objecting to it altogether. But Newbury is not a town that's in a position to do that. So the town has not met any of the targets, benchmarks for low and moderate income housing, and therefore the full panoply of requirements in the law is applicable to the town of Newbury. So the other important thing to know is that before a project, and cut me off if I'm repeating anything that's already been said, but before a project can even get to the Zoning Board of Appeals, it's already gone through a process that is not governed by the town. It's gone through a project eligibility process, and it's received a determination that it is eligible to move forward. So that is an outside agency. It's a housing subsidizing agency. There are 4 or 5 of them in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who have already looked at this and made certain determinations, and only once it receives project eligibility can they then come and file what is called a comprehensive permit application with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's already happened in this case. The subsidizing agency has made already a positive project eligibility determination, and that has allowed the developers to move to this next step, which is filing a comprehensive permit application with the zoning board. So at that stage, and I just very briefly go into it, the developers had to demonstrate to the subsidizing agency a whole long list of things, but the biggest ones are that the project is financially feasible given the Newbury housing market, that the developer is either a nonprofit or will make a limited profit. So these aren't supposed to be built by entities such as Toll Brothers that are making, maximizing their profits. And the other thing is that it controls the site, either owns it or has an option to purchase it. So then this is the next step in the process. Once the comprehensive permit application is filed with the town, through its zoning board of appeals, opens up a public hearing, and that's what we're here for tonight. So it's really crucial to understand, and can't be emphasized enough, that the public hearing is really public hearings. So it's opening tonight, and there's 180 days, which is roughly 6 months from tonight, that the public hearing will be open. So there's so much time for citizens, town officials, any interested person to give their input. So, and there's a lot to learn as this process moves forward. So there's a lot of things that we just don't know tonight. And that, it's gonna take weeks and months to understand and learn, and you'll have opportunities to come back again and again in order to give your input as this project develops. And in the 6 months even isn't a hard deadline if it can be extended with the consent of the developers if there are things going on that make it impossible to close a public hearing within the 180 days. After the 180 days or any extension, the ZBA has 40 days to write its decision. So there's a lot of time and future opportunity for the ZBA and other town officials to receive input from interested parties. So that's important for you to know. So as soon as the ZBA received the application for the comprehensive permit, it forwarded it to all other town boards and committees for their examination and comment. So as you know, if you've ever done a project, like put an addition on, you go to the building department to get your permit. You might have to go to Concom if there's wetlands issues. You may have to go to the Board of Health, you know, if it impacts your septic. That's why it's called a comprehensive permit. The ZBA is the clearinghouse, and again, the purpose of doing it that way is meant to streamline the process to encourage the development of housing for families and individuals of low and moderate incomes. So, so this is the very, very beginning of the process, but just because they don't have to individually, they may have to individually go before certain boards if those boards are acting pursuant to state law instead of local ordinances. But generally, the ZBA is the clearinghouse for this project. So the ZBA, one of the most important steps after we hear the presentation, just hear for the first time what the proposal is at this point, and again, it can change as we go through the process. The next important step is for the ZBA to determine the key issues associated with this particular project. And determine whether or not peer review consultants will be necessary. There's examples of key issues raised by particular projects, might be traffic, stormwater management, depending on the size and the amount of impervious surfaces, wetlands issues, if there are wetlands that are going to be impacted. So if any kinds of these issues will be significant and require outside expertise, the ZBA, with our assistance, will procure consultants, which the developers have to pay for under the state law. So the takeaway from me, things to remember, is that the ZBA cannot discuss this matter outside the public hearing. They can't do that. That's a violation of the open meeting law. So you know, please remember that. But also remember that nothing prevents the developers from talking to abutters and other interested parties to understand people's concerns. And hopefully we will have a positive collaborative process with the developers in which they're, you know, seeking to be responsive to local concerns, because you end up with a much better project that way, and it's a much more pleasant process as well. And so, and then the other thing to remember is just that this isn't, you know, this isn't, the ZBA doesn't have all options on the table now. It, the standard is really, local concerns have to be pretty extraordinary or overwhelming before local concerns can outweigh the preference, the presumptions in the law that encourage the development of low and moderate income housing. So we all, you know, have concerns, and I'm a homeowner. I live in a small town, and I understand that, and I think everybody does. So hopefully we can all work together to have a positive process, and everybody will be heard, at, you know, at the appropriate time. And I guess that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Okay, so the applicant wants to present the project.
It's on?
Should be.
Yeah. For the record, my name is Jeff Engler from SED. We're affordable housing consultants and developers. We've been involved in the permitting of over 15,000 units of mixed income housing in Massachusetts. We are also the most prolific affordable housing administrator and lottery agent. So what that means is on the back end, the marketing and lease up or sell out of the affordable units, we do many projects, both 40Bs and otherwise. So we know both ends. I appreciate Ginny's introductory comments. I think the important takeaway is exactly what we've heard tonight is just the first hearing of a long process. It's our objective to really introduce the project tonight and talk about some of the things at a very high level. But we fully expect over the course of the process to drill down into specific areas, stormwater management, traffic, other considerations that are important to the neighborhood and the board. That's all part of the process. I think it's important to note as well that while certainly the law was enacted to promote mixed income housing, by no means is it a rubber stamp. In other words, we have to meet DEP regulations, environmental regulations, stormwater protection regulations. So it's not the Wild West of here's our plan, take our word for it. I mean, there are regulations, there are procedures, there are things in place that we have to adhere to. And that's all part of the process in terms of going through the plans, drilling down, asking questions, asking for additional information. I can tell you that there'll probably be questions raised tonight, very honestly, that we might say, guess what, at this point we don't have the answer, but we'll endeavor to get it for you. We'd rather tell you something that's researched than off the cuff say, well, this is how it's going to be. So it's a process, it's an iterative process. We look forward to collaborating both with the zoning board, with its legal counsel, with anticipated peer reviews. And I would say for all the projects that we've ever been involved with, hardly ever, if ever, do they look exactly like they did on the first night of the first hearing. Okay, there's things that get taken into consideration and whatnot. So that's an important thing to note, that it's not, we're not saying here's the plan, we expect you to permit it exactly as it is. That's not what we're representing. Our goal tonight, as I said, is to walk you through. I'm here to answer any certain regulatory, procedural, process related questions, and to hopefully move this forward, in an expeditious fashion. But certainly we take seriously our responsibility within the town. And I advise to Jim's point, it's certainly a more effective process and a more pleasant process for the developer, for the board, and for everybody to have a civil and civic interaction and constructive. Believe me, I'm involved in a lot of projects for a variety of reasons, sometimes my clients, sometimes the neighborhoods that aren't. So we endeavor to have it as such, and we'll see how it plays out. So with that said, I will sit down. I'm happy to answer any questions as we move forward, but I'll turn it, forgive me, I should introduce our team, obviously. I'm here representing Byfield Estates, Bobby Katsikas, and Kevin Goodwin. We have Ben Osgood and Joe, I always mispronounce his last name, Abasamra from TTI, Damon McQuaid from Ron Albert Architects. So we're going to walk through really the site plan and all those considerations, the architectural, some of the traffic findings, and then open it up to questions either from the board or from the public. I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Ben Osgood Jr. I'm a civil engineer, the engineer of record for this project. As Jeff said, I have Joe Abasamra here. Why don't you move it to the next slide, Joe? So this is the aerial view of the site. As you can see, we have it's lot 75. It's Pearson, I forget is it 23 Pearson Drive?
55.
55 Pearson Drive.
That would help to know.
55 Pearson Drive. It's a site that's got the residential properties to the southeast that are on Pearson Drive, surrounded on the southwest on the east and northeast by, I believe it's the Martin Burns Reservation properties. And then there's a long sliver of land that is a residentially zoned property to the south that has a house that fronts out on egress, you can see here, is from Pearson Drive. Which connects to Orchard Street. Pearson Drive is a loop road for a portion. It's a kind of a boulevard coming in, an area of just single lane roadway, and then we propose a 700-foot cul-de-sac off of Pearson Drive. See the slides. This is the existing conditions plan. As you can see, the site on the bottom of the plan, those are the residential properties that are along Pearson Drive. The entrance, there's an existing house right in the corner on the bottom left. That's the frontage for the property. That will be our access point. On the left side, there are some wetlands. Joe, I don't know if you could maybe point to them with the cursor. I don't know if you have that ability, but yeah. So the wetlands line is over on the left in that location. There's a wetlands kind of in the bottom center of the site, and then another wetlands over on the right side. The property extends, you know, a ways past the it's pretty much all wetlands over on the right side of the property there. The wetlands were delineated by Mary Rimmer, Rimmer Environmental. There are test pits shown up on the left side. You can see the different test pits. Those test pits were done by TTI Environmental, and I am the soil evaluator of record for those. So next slide. So this is the layout for what we propose. So you can see again Pearson Drive down on the bottom of the plan, and our entrance. It's I think it's approximately 24 feet wide. The right of way I think is a little wider. It accommodates the sidewalks, and there's 24 proposed single-family units. Each of those little lots would be the area of use that each unit would have. So this is just the layout. It just kind of shows the division of the property. Next slide. So this is the layout development plan where the 24 units will go. As you can see, down in the bottom as you enter, there is a little bit of wetlands filling right in that area there. It's about 1,400 square feet. There's a little replacement area proposed adjacent to the road. The hatched areas are the septic systems, and that's where all the test pits were done. And then each home is, these are the building envelopes. These envelopes match what are on the architectural plans. Each home has its own driveway. There's a sidewalk on the right side of the road. I believe curbing on both sides of the road. And the cul-de-sac diameter and all the roadway geometry is in compliance with the subdivision regulations with regard to the layout, the centerline radiuses. That cul-de-sac is in compliance with your regulations that are in the subdivision control bylaw.
Of Newbury? I'm sorry, of Newbury?
Of Newbury, yes. Yep.
Can we ask questions as he's making a discussion?
No, I'd like him to finish, and when we're done, you can ask questions and they can answer, refer back. It'll go much smoother that way.
Yeah, you kind of lose the question and answer. Because, I mean, I would ask a question like,
No, we're not asking that question. Yeah, we're not asking that question now. You try to remember it and ask later.
I know, yeah, you lose the whole concept.
Yeah.
That's all right, go ahead.
We'll be back to each one of these individual maps. We'll drill into each one of these maps as Mr. Ingles suggested.
Okay, thank you.
Right, I'm just trying to give a quick overview, not to get too caught up in the real nitty-gritty details, so, next slide, Joe. So this is our grading plan, a lot of lines, a lot of information here, but just some of the important features. Joe, maybe you can just point to the different detention ponds. There's one right in that area, there's one across the street from that. There's a long, narrow one along the septic systems. There's areas over on the right side, so that there are a lot of detention areas. The site itself is rolling, it's wooded, and it has very good soil. So in a rainstorm, it doesn't produce a lot of runoff in the pre-development condition. So when we develop it, we do need quite a few detention areas. We provide a lot of infiltration to recharge the groundwater. So that's a kind of a busy slide, but that's essentially how we're doing that. Next slide, Joe. So we also have a utility plan, I think is shown. And again, it's a municipal water. There's a drainage system, and they're all in compliance with the subdivision regulations. The septic systems are in compliance with Title V, and we have a collection system that conveys the sewage from the homes down through a regular municipal pipe sewer lines into septic systems and pumps, septic tanks and pump chambers into pressure dose septic systems. So I have to mention that the septic systems will be approved by the Board of Health. They have not been submitted to the Board of Health yet. We didn't feel it was appropriate to begin that process before we began this process. It's a separate submittal that will be in compliance with the state regulations for subsurface disposal of sewage. We also need to go to the Conservation Commission. We obviously have a little wetlands crossing, and that will all have to be vetted through the Conservation Commission, and a lot of buffer zone work here, so that'll be a separate process. So in addition to these hearings, at some point we'll start those septic system Board of Health approvals and the Conservation Commission hearings. Roadway profile, again, just shows all the utilities, the slopes of the roads. Everything is in compliance with the subdivision regulations. Next one, Joe. Erosion sedimentation control plan, part of the stormwater management regulations. Again, this will be vetted through the Conservation Commission mainly. It shows how we're going to control erosion on the site during construction, how we're going to treat the runoff, and how we're going to infiltrate and control the rates and volumes of runoff. Alright, so I guess I'll pass it over to the architectural side. I don't recall the name, sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Damon McQuaid, representing Ron Albert, who's the architect of record for these buildings. For this project, we're proposing two separate home plans, this being the first one, approximately 2,700 square feet plus or minus, or this one's 22, sorry. So we believe from an architectural standpoint that these designs are contextually appropriate in both size and scale for the surrounding area. Makes a good effort as far as varying roof lines to add interest to the building and break down the mass. Using porches to make the home more inviting and foster neighborhood development. Go to the next slide. This is just the basement plan, but go to the next one. So, very open and efficient floor plan. The 3-bedroom units. This is the first floor and the second floor. 3 bedrooms. Go to the next slide. This is the second unit. This is the one that's 2,700 square feet. Again, feel as appropriate in size and scale, in character, using traditional New England materials. Again, just think that you do a very good job of breaking down the mass of the building, and it feels appropriate. And these are the floor plans again, same as the last unit, 3 bedrooms, open floor plan concept.
Ben, I'm gonna make one comment.
I believe those are all the slides we have on there.
I'll make one quick comment, if I may, before we get to traffic. For those unfamiliar with 40B processes, The affordable units will be consistent with the market units, so you're not gonna be able to drive through the community and say, oh, that's an affordable unit, that's a market unit. The exterior materials, the size, the fenestrations, the whole nine will be consistent throughout. Typically what we like to do, and I don't wanna get ahead of ourselves, but relative to a plan is you basically permit a footprint, if you will, to allow the developer the flexibility of if there's a market preference for more A types or more, B types or whatnot, as opposed to saying, and A's gotta go there, B's gotta go there, C's, like, what we would expect is I would imagine the town probably doesn't want 24 the same unit over and over, so maybe there's some minimums or whatnot, remains to be seen, but typically what we aspire to do is, because we like to give buyers, both the affordable buyers and market rate buyers, if somebody says, I want an A unit on that lot, the developer enough flexibility to be able to deliver upon that. So I mostly wanted to comment because it's important to recognize that the affordable units and also the affordable units will not be lined up like 6 in a row, on the quote unquote, not that there is on this plan, but certainly we work on certain projects where maybe one side of the project or site is more desirable than the other. One's overlooking the ocean, the other is overlooking the nuclear waste facility. In this case, it's a nice bucolic site, but my point is they're not all lined up in a row. And also the developer has to deliver an affordable unit for every 3 market rate units. So the developer cannot build, in this case there's 6 affordable units, say I'll build 18 market units and I'll save the 6 affordable for the end. They can build 3, because you can never get behind the 25%. So they can build the 3 and then the next one's gotta be an affordable, and then they can build 3 and the next one. They can build more. Frequently the developers, build more, but at a minimum that's what our responsibility is. So turn it back over to Ben.
Part of our submittal, we submitted just a traffic memorandum. I just wanted to go over the highlights of that memorandum. This project is 24 dwelling units, and the traffic generation for 24 dwelling units is about 240 trips per day. When you're looking at traffic, you look at trips per day and you look at peak hour trips. Oh, there is a slide. I didn't know we had a slide. So we looked at a couple of issues, whether or not the trip generation, whether or not a traffic study is warranted, and then just the site distance issues. So the roadway alignments. So what the conclusions are: the available site distances are adequate for the Orchard Street, Pearson Drive intersection. So we take a look at the intersection of Orchard and Pearson. We know the speed limits, and we can take measurements, and we know that per the traffic manuals, the site distance is adequate. So back to the other slide. So the site distance for Pearson Drive at the proposed driveway intersection, that's where our new roadway is coming onto Pearson Drive, right at that spot right there. That site distance is also adequate. The trip generation calculates that don't have any significant impact to the areas. The proposed driveway in Pearson Drive will provide safe and adequate access for the proposed development. So again, calculated trips, 283 total in and out. Weekday AM peak hour are 27. Weekday PM peak hour are 29. Saturday daily 269. Saturday site peak hour 30. And during the tabulated peak hours, vehicle trips are 27 to 30 vehicle trips. So what you look at is that worst possible point during the day, the peak hour, how many trips are generated, and if a development generates at least 100 peak hour trips, so that's 100 trips in 1 hour, then a traffic study is warranted. So when we're at 27 to 30, that's a very low amount for peak hour, and a traffic study isn't warranted. So that's basically the conclusion of the traffic memorandum.
I'll just make two quick comments before we conclude on traffic, because once again, most everybody drives, so usually most people have kind of an opinion or perspective on traffic. Under 40B, traffic volume is, I mean, we obviously did peak hour generation. Traffic volume is not a consideration. Now, in this case, at this density, and don't take my word for it, I'm sure the board will be interested in traffic. The volumes that we're talking about, no level of service will change, and the way traffic engineers do it is, you know, like you do a letter grade A, B, C, D, F. At this level, any intersection operating at an A is going to be an A, anything with B, a B. It's just, I know it seems like a lot to people that are not used to it, but in terms of the world of traffic, it's not. But one thing that we do have to comply with, whether it's 1 unit, 24 units, or 1,000 units, is it has to be a safe condition. We have to have appropriate sight lines entering and exiting the property. We can't create an unsafe condition. This analysis, you know, we have good sight lines, but certainly traffic is something that always gets vetted throughout the process, and we look forward to that. One of the nice things about traffic is it's based on engineering, it's based on standards, it's based on ITE, AASHTO, other accepted industry standards. Traffic engineers all talk the same language, it's all based on math. But that's something that will certainly be vetted over the process, but based on all the projects I've been involved with, I know enough about traffic to be dangerous. I certainly do not represent myself as a traffic engineer, but I think it's important to note, you know, this project at this density, in terms of its vehicular impact on the surrounding community. You know, I know there are people, certainly, and I'm not being dismissive, there will be more cars in that area. There's no question about it. We're not hiding from that in any way, shape, or form. But relative to how traffic is evaluated, and certainly how traffic is evaluated within the context of 40B, you know, we think we're certainly, you know, we'll see what your peer review consultant says, but, you know, we feel confident in where we're at. So with that said, that really concludes our introduction tonight. We're happy to answer any questions from the board, and I'll sit down.
Anything you want to say?
No, I'd rather listen to the audience at the moment, and I do have some comments before the night's out.
Okay. So, if you'd like to speak, raise your hand, and you'll go to the microphone and give us your name and address, and
We might put up the site
Yes,
plan or
whatever you
something.
want. Yes,
if
sir.
people wanna.
Yeah, Russ Moser, 59 Pearson Drive. I am an abutter. The package, which is on the town website, the table of contents lists section 9 as the requested waivers and deviations they're looking for. There is no section 9 in that package. When can we get a list of what kind of waivers and deviations they're looking for as part of the permitting process?
good questions. Can you answer that?
Well, that's gotta be answered by the applicant,
Okay.
because that was provided by the applicant,
Okay.
so.
Should I,
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
time I answer, should I walk back up to the
I would,
mic or?
yeah.
Please.
Should I maybe sit up?
Maybe that might be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah.
It was my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had a discussion and we resubmitted everything, and it was confirmed that the application was complete, we certainly have the waiver list. If it was not included in the package, it was accidentally omitted, but I believe that was brought to our attention a while ago, and we resubmitted everything. So we'll make sure, that's a long-winded way of saying, we will make sure that it is in Sue's box tomorrow morning, and it can get populated appropriately. But it's it's not something, we have it, I think we submitted it, but if, we'll get it.
I have one in front of me, so I don't know why it was omitted on the website, but we have been,
And-
they have
and
submitted
again,
one.
Omission from the website, I mean, I uploaded the whole package that the applicant gave us, so there was a little bit of back and forth there for a while, so it may just have been omitted by accident, so.
Do you want a summary of that, since we don't have it?
Sure, they're asking for categories, their use, only one principal structure per lot. One required, they want 24. Property line radius and intersection, required 30, they're proposed 0. Cul-de-sac length, required 500, they're proposed 845. Width of right-of-way, 50 feet, they proposed 40. Street grades, 2% minimum, 10% max, they're gonna be greater than 2%. Open space recreational area, discretionary, proposed none. Drain pipe material, concrete, and they're proposing HDPE, which is plastic. Bicycle paths are encouraged, they're not proposing any. Monuments at intersections and points of the curvature in the roadway right-of-way, and they're proposing none. Tree plantings are discretionary, they're proposing none, and nitrogen and/or phosphorus loading calculations, they're asking for a waiver and they're proposing none.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
My name's Jerry Woodmansee. I live in North Reading, actually. I belong to the Essex County League. I'm kind of interested in the land about it, and also about houses. The distance cuts down on our hunting area. But there are some other things here that I think questions that should be answered. And I'd like to mention them, if I might. So one of the questions is what is the cost of the homes? You say average homes, but that's like they say average income for people. What do you consider average cost for the homes? What is the average cost for a person to buy one of these homes?
I don't know that that's been determined yet.
They have it as income.
Well,
You talk average income, they're all over today.
Are you referring to, sir, the affordable prices are fixed? So that I can tell you, the market prices, I can give you an idea, but it's obviously whatever the market will bear. But I can tell you the affordable units, relative to the affordable sales prices, it's very formulaic in that it's based on the area median income, it's based on the tax rate for Newbury, it's based on the current 30-year fixed rate mortgage at that time. The only input that the developer controls is there'll be, an association fee here for snow removal and things of that nature, common area maintenance. So you put those all into a formula, and I would say that the affordable, and also bedroom size, so there's a different price for a 3-bedroom versus 2-bedroom versus 1-bedroom. I would say the range of the affordable units here will probably be in the 190 to 210 range, give or take, for one of the units.
Okay. Will the town be, I'm just asking questions that come to my mind, okay? The other one was, is the town gonna value these properly like these? Are they gonna revalue them differently? I don't know. There's so many different games that they play.
It's a good question, but they are assessed and taxed. There's a deed restriction that is attached to each of the affordable units. So somebody can't buy an affordable unit and 5 years from now turn around and sell it for double or triple of what they paid. Because it's restricted in perpetuity, it's taxed at that restricted amount. So it'll be taxed at the affordable price. All the other market rate houses will be taxed at their assessed value the same way any other residents would be taxed in the town.
A couple of other questions, if you would, will you hear? What does the builder, what's the percentage that the builder average will make on these units, on these particular units? How much money do they actually make? This is something else that's considered too.
Sure.
Because you have to consider children coming in, going to school, how much it's gonna cost the town, and everything else on this, on the schooling, especially schooling. I live in North Reading, and schooling's gone like this from where it was, and all the taxes and stuff, it's gone horrible. It have a big impact on wildlife. One of the things on your design on your houses, you have the pigeon scoops on them where they come down and they stick out to the right. You really don't want to put those on because they collect birds, they collect dirt, and they don't stand up. You have a problem with them. So I'm just mentioning that in passing. The little ones that come down and come out.
That's a technical detail way above my pay grade relative to architecture.
I'm just mentioning points.
I would say that I would say this to your credit, it's very constructive, and it's certainly something we could look at, and we'll talk to our architect about, and if you or somebody else has, you know, a more prudent design, we're certainly open to that. Do you want
So what is
to-
what is your profit margin on
So-
a unit?
so
on
re-
this,
so
like that?
regu-
What do you- Come on, you say you've made a lot of these all over. What has been your average profit on these different groups where you're going? What do you percent on this one? I'm just trying to
Sure.
find out because the town, it can cost the town an awful lot of money.
No, I understand. Well, every project is different, but this is a home ownership project. And under the state statute, the developer is restricted in the total amount they can make. So the
What
way
is
it
it?
works, 20% above all costs,
How much?
20% above all costs. And that's not just the houses, that's all the infrastructure, that's all the site work, that's all the soft costs. So in other words, to put it in layman's terms, let's just say the total project cost, you know, was $10 million, okay? After every cost, the units are built, so the developer can make up to 20% of that total value, or the total cost, excuse me. And that's whether it's in Newbury, whether it's in Brookline, whether it's in Worcester, that's statutory, so the profit, so unlike somebody that builds a spec house, they can make, you know, whatever the market will bear. The developer, as part of somewhat the trade-off of being able to waive certain local zoning requirements and otherwise, their profit is capped, so I don't know if I'm answering your question,
The
but
other thing too, just to bring up some things, the new materials that are coming out for housing and for roofing and such, some of them have smaller life and some of them have longer life. And I was wondering if you have come up with this with products that are gonna be a long life and stand up, or is it something that's gonna fall apart in 30 years or 40 years or whatever it might happen to be? Also, you have a problem with, I don't know what your decks are gonna be, but there's new products out for decking where they're not gonna rot and deteriorate and railings and that kind of stuff. And you have to look ahead. I have an old house that was made in 1905, and we had to do all porches around it and everything on it, and a lot of it. So it's a question not just for the people moving into these houses right now. It's about looking ahead into the town in a number of years, and these people, how much it is actually gonna cost them, and how much it's gonna cost you for the schooling. We went through, they tore down old schools and built new schools, and the schooling is tremendous in towns. If you've got 2 or 3 kids coming in with 3 bedrooms, you've got probably 2 anyway, probably 3. And this is gonna make a big thing on the towns and everything around, so it should be considered. I just wanted to mention some of these things, and everything, like I said, is we're very much upset. Maybe Pat will say something about it, about the wildlife in the area and how it's gonna affect them and everything else, so maybe Pat will say something. Just items I wanted you to consider. There's so many new products out and everything coming on that these new products should be considered so they're gonna have the lifetime of the house and they're gonna last.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Yes, come on up,
Please come up, yeah. Oh.
please.
Hi, my name is Connie Will, 3 Pearson Drive, and probably saying the same thing over and over at every meeting I go to, but, as a resident of Pearson Drive few issues, I mean, we've got a lot of issues, obviously, with the project, a lot of it's already been explained. But some of the things are, like the environmental issues, as one of the gentlemen mentioned. I feel that an environmental study should be conducted with an independent party. And I have consulted with a person that would be willing to go to the site. We actually thought that we would conduct this sort of a site walk at one point with Representative Mira and, who's the other fellow, I can't think. Ustar, right, and apparently, I don't know what happened, but permission was denied for this to take place, so I think that this is something that should be allowed. I myself went to the site walk, about a year ago. Yeah, and the Martin Burns people were there, and they raised a lot of issues that there could be a vernal pool there, but the best time to assess this would be in the spring, this time of the year. So I think this should be conducted now. There could be endangered species there, yellow spotted salamanders, there's various species that should be assessed. I know that is, if those species exist or a vernal pool exists on that property, this project would be brought to a halt. So, and I don't think that the environment should be pushed under the rug. I think this should be front and center, and this should be a priority with our town, and we have to care about the environment. If we don't care about it, no one will. We have to preserve our environment for our children, and I think this is a priority. The other thing is I have a handicapped son, everybody knows that. He's in a wheelchair, he's got cerebral palsy, and I don't believe there's one unit in this project that's handicapped accessible, is that correct? I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that should be allowed this day and age with all the laws that we have protecting the handicapped and accessibility. And you're gonna build a project in my town, in my backyard. It's disgraceful to me that there's not one handicapped unit. And I don't know about these bedrooms, but I think they're all on the second floor, is that correct? So you got people that are aging that might be interested in these units that have issues, or they're gonna have issues with getting up and down stairs. If they don't have it now, they're gonna have it in 5 or 10 years. This is an aging population we have here. And to propose all bedrooms on the second floor with no handicap access, I think is disgraceful. And I feel that the veterans, and we're letting down a lot of groups that are disabled, not only disabled children, disabled people that in our society, but also veterans who may have a disability, a war injury, come home and want an affordable unit, and by God, they can't live here because you haven't got a handicapped unit for them. So I think that's disgraceful too. I just want to go on the record for that. And I have a lot of issues with this project. A lot of it's already been expressed. The planning board has done a good job, I think, going through some of the issues, Martha Taylor. And there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And hopefully, as we go through this process, people will have an opportunity to raise issues and not be afraid. Not be afraid to speak. And this is our neighborhood, and we want to protect our land here in Newbury. It's a beautiful area. And I tell you one thing, one of the reasons why this community wasn't targeted for 40B development is because we got a lot of wetlands here. And it wasn't appropriate, and that's why other towns were looked. And that's why developers went to other towns. And now when they're running out of space, they're looking to Newbury. Towns like Newbury, they have a lot of wetlands, and maybe environmental issues are being pushed to the side, and I don't think that's correct either. So that's why I just want to make that statement for the record. I appreciate everyone that does care about the environment and does care about our children and our lovely town of Newbury, and I hope that it is preserved. And I'm not against affordable housing, but I think it needs to be in the right location, and it has to be a balance. And if you read the statute, everything has to be balanced, and everything has to be done in the proper context, or it shouldn't go forward. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The next speaker.
You own it, it's yours now.
Yeah, this is my bad, thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
I just have one question, please.
Yes, sir.
Fran Mills, Pearson Drive. One of the biggest things I have concern, I think the town should look at, because the last 3 years it's been dry, and now it's been raining for 60 days and 60 nights. Groundwater. So I think we should get up there, have a peek at it, see where the groundwater's going, looking at the plans, great plans going forward on these little pools here, but see where the direction of the water's gonna go. It all ends up in the Parker River. And it's like what Connie just said, it's about the environment, and that's probably the only lake we have to stand on. But can we at least get the town council to look at it, or you guys to look at it, to get someone out there, PDQ, to look at the groundwater?
All of that will be addressed.
Okay, like what kind of timetable are we looking at?
We haven't said anything beyond tonight's meeting.
Okay,
We are gonna hire consultants.
okay, because we have 180, what, 180 days?
Right.
Okay, got 180 days. June's right around the corner. It's probably gonna stop raining soon, hopefully. But I think this is probably a good window of opportunity to get out there and take a peek at what's going on.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Up back.
Damon Jesperson. In the initial letter from the town, we had some concerns about fire. This plan looks exactly the same to me as the previous plan, so I'm curious how you've addressed our concerns about us getting our apparatus to these new structures, because building a bunch of houses that are this close together, that have can't adequately be serviced by our firemen, is preposterous to me. I don't know why that wasn't addressed, why that wasn't sufficient concern for the state, but it's a great concern to me.
Yes, sir.
We actually, we did address that concern, and what the concern was the cul-de-sac area. We had designed a detention pond in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and the fire department indicated they wanted to be able just to have that as grass, so if they had to turn and go into that area, they could with the trucks. So we eliminated that detention pond, it's just a level area now. That'll just be grass, so that the trucks could drive through there if they needed to access and turn around. So.
Thank you. Again, we're gonna have input from the fire department at a later date, and those type of questions can be addressed at that time.
If I could also add, a lot of times, and I'd like to request that we can respond to comments, but it's a lot easier if we get them in writing than to try to remember everything that somebody says here. So, and I think, you know, the town did submit a lot of issues and concerns in response to, I believe, the right. So, but again, as we move forward, if anything can be put in writing and forwarded to us, and then we can respond appropriately. So, yeah, I know it's with this many people with concerns, and I don't wanna overtax the town hall more than we have to.
Well,
but,
you know, there's a couple options. You can take notes while you're here, and you can look at the website and review everything that's said. So, you know,
I'll watch the movie.
the onus is on you, really, not us.
We'll capture the comments. I mean, I have groundwater underlined, fires, so we'll get them. I mean, typically, you know, we hear some consistent themes, so, and also any peer review consultant's gonna submit, you know, a written report too. So we'll have the benefit of that. Some of the questions, you know, we probably can address more easily, and we might come back at the next hearing and say, hey, we heard this, and this is the response. Some of it, it's efficient to do it with peer review rather than like on an ad hoc basis, because then a lot of, you know, kind of question answer as opposed to trying to consolidate a little bit more efficient. But I mean, rest assured, if people are saying things, I'm writing them down. We know kind of what some of these issues are. So.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm back. One kind of Russ Moser, 59 Pearson. One concern I've had from the beginning on this is that it's been laid out to be a condominium association. And my question is, does the town have any oversight over what those condominium agreements will be? As people move into these houses, you have people who are qualifying for affordable housing, not the same income bracket as those who are buying at market rate. What constrictions are they gonna have that the condo association generates enough money and fees to maintain the properties? The way, we're accustomed to in the Pearson Drive area. And that's we haven't seen any details on how that condo agreement will be, and it's a concern.
Okay. You want to comment on that now? Just quickly?
It's a good question. I mean, typically the way permits are written is it would be a requirement, like when we go to, because we don't have any condo docs yet. I mean, it's the first hearing. We don't know what direction the project is going, so it's premature to, but what typically happens is we prepare the documents and we submit them to the board or to council for their review. They're not writing the master deed or declaration of trust, but they're making sure it's legal, that it's consistent with the conditions in the permit. Your point's well taken. We have to show a budget, that demonstrates that there'll be adequate funds to do the necessary common maintenance. There'll be presumably some common area, snow removal, landscaping, what have you. So that's more typically a requirement or a condition in the permit that when we go back, when we're ready to file for a building permit, we have to submit that, for review and approval. So that's typically how it works. I mean, your questions are good ones, but I can't represent to you that we've prepared those documents. No developer at this stage has done
I have one other question which tied in with our cost of the houses. What do you believe that the income would be for the people or for a family to be able to purchase one of these homes, seeing that you've done so many of these before? What would be the income that they would have to come in to support them and their two children?
No, I got you. I will give you that exact figure at the next hearing, but I will tell you roughly it's probably in the range of 48 to 62,000 for the entire household. It's important to note, and I'm glad you answered that question, and the council and the board probably knows it. There's a lot of misnomers about 40B. They think the affordable units are Section 8 housing or, people that are destitute. I mean, this housing really, I don't want to get into a whole public policy debate about who's it serving, but it's typically gainfully employed households that just can't afford, a new house in eastern Massachusetts. And that's, basically how the program's set up. You might have philosophical issues with who it's serving. There are programs that serve lower income tiers. There's also some programs in the city that you can earn up to 100% in some cases. But it's really a targeted group that's gainfully employed people. They're making a reasonable income. They're just not able to buy a new house. So, and that's the same on the rental side too. But I'll write it down and I'll tell you exactly what it is at the next hearing.
Okay. Someone else? Yes, sir. Oh, okay, we're actually acknowledged. Okay, go ahead. That's all right.
Well, we brought it up, I just the real concern on the condo agreement is that septic setup that they've got, a community septic system.
Okay.
That if that goes bad, we're looking at $30,000 for a single family septic system.
Okay.
What's gonna happen when that goes bad?
Okay, we understand.
And it will.
My name's Buddy Mira. My address is in West Newbury, but I'm the state rep for the 2nd Essex District. That includes the town of Newbury. And I was looking at the plot plan, it's not on there now, but I believe to the north of it is a park, Martin Burns. I think that is used for hunting sometimes. And there is a Massachusetts regulation, I believe, it's 1,000-foot setback for discharging. 500 for discharging a firearm. So do any of your plans show how much of that land will now be off limits to hunting as a result of that setback? And furthermore, how do hunters know when they've reached that setback? Because if they come in from the northern part of the Martin Burns Park, how will they know what that 500-foot setback is? And how are they gonna be notified about that? And how much of the acreage of that park will now be off limits to hunting? Thank you.
They won't know, Lenny.
Okay.
Just to address Lenny's point before I tell you that I'm John Cradle and I live at 8 Pearson Drive,
Okay.
that there is a shotgun range at the Martin Burns Center that is located probably within about 500 feet, if my memory serves me, where people basically have a chance to check the pattern on their shotguns before they go out for bird season or deer season. There's also just down the road from that, maybe another 200 feet, if that, pistol range that the police had used in the past, and I continue to use, as an area to do target shooting and practice with firearms. So it's an area that's extremely loud. I've heard people discharging weapons, AK-47s and everything else down there that we live probably a good 1,000 feet away, and it still sounds like a cannon fire going off down in that direction. So the new people really got something to look forward to. If I can trouble you, Mr. Abusamra, for the very first slide that you had showing the entire
The aerial?
the aerial. Yeah.
Battery died, so.
No, sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
They let you go.
Yeah, there's just no plug over there.
Just in 25 words of us also to address the issue my wife and I were chuckling over. I know that the state has its regs as far as trips in and out, and they have this little formula that they use. We ain't in the middle of North Reading or Wakefield, we're in East Poker Brush, we're in Newbury, we're in Byfield. And the likelihood that somebody's gonna take their car and go someplace is a heck of a lot higher in Byfield than it is in some of the places that the state uses that formula to compute what they think the number of trips that people are gonna take in and out of their house. You go out, you get your kid, you take him to school, you go back, you take him to soccer practice, you take him to the band practice, to the meet, you go grocery shopping, you go to your job, you come back from your job, you go to a ZBA meeting. There's any numbers of things that are going on that would suggest that maybe, you know, the number of hours that they're thinking, or the number of trips they're talking about are grossly underestimated.
You do realize that we are gonna have people review this?
I do.
So you're hearing one side of the story
Yep.
tonight?
I just wanted to,
Okay.
you know, make sure that nobody was missing out on the fact we're a little different here in Byfield.
Okay.
The issue also, when we get a chance to see that overhead, that piece of property, if my memory serves me, and just to help people here, so many of the people here know this, but you may or may not know this because it's been 100 years. When this, the very first one, if I may, that shows all of Pearson Drive and all of the whole shooting match, that's the puppy. As you can see in the bottom right, to the kind of a pinkish area that is the site, lot 75 is being shown, which coincidentally is my lot number on the plan originally. As it continues down to the street, that all had been one parcel at one time, with the exception of the piece that they bought from the Old Jays, who had a house at that location on Pearson Drive. And they acquired that so they'd be able to have frontage to make this work. My understanding was, when it was initially purchased from, was it the Pepin Estate? I think it was Rita Pepin's property, if I recall. I am showing my age now. That whole thing was one parcel, and there had been an intention to maybe just run the road straight back and make it into a subdivision, and wouldn't that be wonderful? But it turned out to be so wet that the cost of getting through there was just going to be murderous. And now instead we're playing games with the vernal pools and the water and the everything else that we're going to have to build out at the end of this. To be clear from the outset, I don't think there's anybody who lives on Pearson Drive, and forgive me if I'm wrong, let me know if I'm wrong, who doesn't think this is a completely horrific idea. We've moved to the country, we've been in an area we have in that house that was built in 1701, by the way, by Abraham Adams, who was spinning in the ground at the thought of what's happening out there. The reason we went to the country is to be able to be free from cluster development, to be free from this type of high density. We certainly don't begrudge people the opportunity to live in this wonderful community, but this particular choice of property being basically placed as a pimple on the butt of the subdivision, that was nothing to shout about to begin with. And I know because I was the attorney representing Ronnie Pearson when he did this development. When he first filed for this subdivision, there was a request for there to be 100 lots in this subdivision. Needless to say, the planning board in its infinite wisdom said, what are you, nuts? And they kept on knocking him down to the point where it's about 65, if I recall, buildable lots in that subdivision as it is, which is pretty intense. And as many of you will also be able to say from your own personal experiences, when the waters started rising again and the septic systems failed, the soil conditions aren't the greatest along this entire strip of land. We have a situation where with the density that we're going to see with 24 houses, if that's what they're looking for, if that's what they end up with, at least 2 people having cars. If there's kids, gee, I don't know, kids grow up, they get cars. Are there gonna be maybe 4 cars per family? Will there be 100 cars in that area? The impact it's going to have just in traffic alone on this subdivision and the quality of life for the people who live in this area is incredibly intense. If you look also at that plan and continue out beyond to the top, to put it in that reference, you'll see there are 3 larger lots that extend out beyond, off the end of a common driveway to the left of this particular parcel that's being developed. Those are 5-acre lots. At one point, Mr. Pearson had actually intended to maybe put his own personal home in on one of those, and there were visions of it being maybe, you know, a nice horse farm or something very pleasant to live on. Didn't work out that way. He's done okay, don't worry about Ronnie. The interesting thing is though, the planning board, and I want to make sure this didn't escape anybody's notice, on the covenant that was filed at the time this planning board subdivision was approved, those 3 lots at the end, there is a restriction stating that they shall not be further subdivided.
Okay.
So the planning board had something going on to realize that to further increase the density out here was not a good idea at the end of a cul-de-sac. There were tremendous discussions that went on about the fact that we're at the end of a cul-de-sac. The town doesn't want to build cul-de-sacs, and now we're going to extend it another 840 or something feet. So I know I've rambled on, but these are just the beginnings of the issues, and if I were to suggest to you that I do not have anything less than a visceral dislike of this project, I would be lying. I find this offensive, and I frankly will do whatever I can to try to keep it from happening. And I would urge you to keep in mind what the people in the area are having as an impact on their lives if this thing gets pushed through. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about if we let some other people speak first that haven't, if they want to, and then we'll come back to you.
I just had one more comment.
Yeah. Anybody else like to speak? Yes.
Kathy Cleveley, Pearson Drive. My question is very mundane after that. I want to know the difference between the marketable units and the affordable units. You said from the outside driving by, we won't be able to tell which is which. How do you keep those units low, and will they last? What are those units like?
Excuse me, can you tell me your address again? I didn't hear
8
your.
Pearson.
8 Pearson, thank you.
My girl. Are you referring to the exterior or the interior, or all the above?
The interior, what is the house
The interior.
like? What makes
The-
it
the-
different?
Well, I don't know that there's anything that's different. I mean, there's a spec that has to be delivered. Typically, you know, there's upgrades that are offered the same way in any subdivision, but the affordable buyers have to have, you know, they're limited to what they can spend on their unit. So there's a very nice standard spec, but if a market rate buyer comes in and says, well, I want, you know, Italian marble in my kitchen, they can do that. But relative to long-term maintenance, is that what you're getting at?
Well, yeah, what are the cabinets made of? What kind of woodwork is there on the affordable units?
I mean, we don't
So
have,
much cheaper.
we don't, no, they don't make them so, that's the whole,
This is what I need to know.
that's the whole purpose. The developers lose money on the affordable units, okay? That's the whole purpose of the statute, is you get density bonus, all right? I understand the passion of some of the statements. 40B's been on the books for 50 years. Why hasn't the town of Newbury or other towns done any affordable housing in 50 years? I hear all the time, well, we have wetlands, we have environmental considerations. That doesn't obfuscate you from the same responsibility that other towns do. So I'm sensitive to that, and we have to certainly pay attention to that, and we have to meet standards. But to say, well, we have wetlands and we have hunting and whatever, so go away, that's not what, if that's the position that people want to take, we'll respond likewise. That's what I'm hopeful we don't go in that direction. But to your point, developers, I'm doing a project, okay, in Weston, where the market units are gonna sell for $1.6 million, and the affordable units will sell for $160,000. And those affordable units will cost, $500,000 or $600,000 to build. The reason 40B is in place because people are not building affordable housing, all right? They're only building market rate housing. So that's the whole, and I understand philosophically people might think that's garbage, and you have every right to believe that. It's the same way on any political issue. But that's the premise behind the law, is that developers lose money on the affordable houses, and they make it up because they get density bonuses relative to the statute. So the units are nice units. I mean, I would be, yes, I mean, I did personally, I told you I'm a developer. I did a 20-unit project in Needham, which is a very affluent town, and the affordable, we just did a project in Newton with 9 affordable units. We had 240 qualified applicants. We had 900 applicants for those units. People are starving for high-quality, good housing, and honestly, there's not a lot of it being built without 40B, and that's a fact. So I understand there's issues, and people are emotional about this development. I get it, and there's roots in the community, and we're going to endeavor to work with the town. But when people take a position of, we don't want you at all, go home, in my opinion, in my experience, that's not constructive. And I will say, in a biased opinion, but it's the truth that the law is in favor of the developer because they need the housing. So we can, attempt to work collaboratively and talk about some of these issues, or we can hear, go home, we don't want you. And then, we'll understand that as well. So apologize, I'm passionate about this, as you can tell. I believe in affordable housing, and I believe in these projects. I'm not representing that this project is perfect. It's the first night. We've heard some real comments that are constructive. I mean, trust me, people are passionate. I've been in very destructive conversations where it's it makes this look like a picnic. So we've heard good things. We will endeavor to get back to you with answers, and we look forward to the process. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I just want to comment, I'm probably a little older than most of you people, I'm 85. I moved into North Reading, it was from Linfield, it was a nice little town, 1958, and today you can't even walk across the streets. 62 would be required, I happen to be on 62. Everything has grown up everywhere, and I'm just trying to give you an idea of where your town's going to be 40, 30, or 40 years from now. And you really got to do it and slow stuff down and be very careful on what you have and on the houses that are built, that they use top quality materials, because a lot of the new ones, they've had all kind of problems, roofs and this, that, and settling and everything else, many places. So I'm just trying, it's one of the reasons I came here is because, like I said, I don't like to see people get screwed. And this is what happens in most every town. Like I said, North Reading, I was mentioned today, we're talking about shooting. We used to shoot firecrackers and shoot the cans up in the air and shoot them with a shotgun.
Sir, I think we're getting a little sidetracked
This is all a
with
problem,
this.
so watch your town and take care of it, because otherwise it will not be good.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just one quick point. Since Lenny's here, our representative, much has been made of the fact that that's right next to the Martin Burns Wildlife Center. Martin Burns has another piece of property right across this, right on Orchard Street, if I recall correctly, that they grow corn in, just beyond the Mosquito Brook as it crosses the entrance to the Wildlife Center, if you can picture where I'm talking about. Has there been any discussion that possibly making an exchange that would have to be done with the legislature's approval, 2/3 approval I might add, to exchange that piece as wildlife in exchange for something that would be right on a road and would really lessen a whole lot of
That's
problems?
nothing that has come before us, and that's way beyond our pay grade.
Just wondered if it was on. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody on the board like to make any comments?
Sure. Relative to your conservation issues, they will be coming with a full conservation plan and a submittal to the Conservation Commission. It's something they can't get around. They've asked for waivers from our local bylaws. That's really not gonna play into any difference here. Our local bylaw pretty much says do it like the state tells you, and that's how they're gonna have to do it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the statute forces them in at this point. They need to go to conservation prior to obtaining a building permit. So I don't know what their timetable is, that's gonna be up to them. I do have some requests for information, but maybe we'll get that all together at the end, yes, just some standard comments.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, we heard from you. Can we hear from the developers? Can we hear, like, to have you stand up and explain your intent or interest or reasoning or?
Well, my name's Kevin Goodwin, managing person for the project.
Kevin, come up to the mic.
I will be the person on site daily overseeing the whole operation. Collectively, we've built over 40 single-family homes, 6,500 square foot restaurant, 12,000 square foot retail mall, 60,000 square feet of commercial space. So I mean, as far as this project's concerned, it's well within what we do.
Is there an interest in providing low-income housing? Is there an interest in, is this just another job? Is this?
No, I mean, it's an interest after meeting Jeff and learning the process, you know, this, he put us, you know, that put us in this direction that this is something that we can do.
Okay. And then the second question is, in terms of plans that are being worked on, is there any updates? Is there a process that's ongoing now of, I mean, are you continuously looking at your project and advancing it? What stage do you feel you're at in terms of?
Well, we work as we'll go from here, then we'll adjust as we go.
I can comment on that. I mean, I think typically, really the process in earnest, once you start getting peer review, because then you start getting constructive, technical comments from experts. I think it would be I mean, we filed for this plan. I mean, I don't think it would be that, first of all, we don't want to be making changes because then the peer review consultants will not be reviewing or we have an iterative plan. So my suggestion, the way it works in pretty much all 40B projects, let's have them review this plan. They'll provide comments, they'll provide feedback. It's at that time we then start to look at, what comments can we do, what comments, are constructive, what changes can we make. So it's not customary to start making changes. I mean, we've heard some good comments tonight, I'll be honest, to make changes before we've heard from, a civil peer review or a traffic expert or whatnot. So I think that's where we're at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And the question wasn't really if you're making changes. The question was trying to feel you out if you were throwing something on the table or whether you thought you had a well thought out plan.
No, believe me, I've been in projects where it's kind of, first of all, I can say this honestly, it's very rare, even in 40Bs, where the roadways and the infrastructure comply with the local zoning, which usually developers are looking, town subdivision rules request 24 feet, well, it's a small road, we want to do 18, or we want to do 20, we don't want to do a sidewalk, we don't want to build it to the town engineering spec. So I can say relative to the amount of thought and time, granted, there are some waivers representing otherwise, but, and relative to the lot sizes, there's certainly some differences. But in terms of kind of the plan itself, I mean, most importantly, technically it works, and I believe, we'll find through the peer review process that bears itself out. It's not, the old days, it's kind of like, we'll go in with 40, and the zoning board will cut you down, and you arrive at something that you should have done with in the first place. That's not my style, it's not this client's style. I mean, so it's a very long-winded way of saying we think this plan as proposed works, but we're certainly going to hear what other people have to say as we go through the process, so.
No more questions.
Mr. Goodwin, I've got a series of projects in here that were worked on, that were given to us to review. Some of the things that you mentioned aren't on that list. I wondered why, like your 12,000 square foot of commercial space, those things didn't appear on this list.
They didn't, they just mentioned previous projects, they didn't say they needed projects from 10 years back, however long back. They just gave us a short window of the previous 4 years or so.
Okay, so,
I just have a question.
yes, please come up and tell us who you are.
My name is Teresa Arsenault, I live at 17 Pearson Drive. My question really just is, in terms of submitting concerns in writing, how would we go about that? I don't know if we have somewhere that we can address those concerns to, or are we addressing them to you directly? That is what I would like to know before I leave tonight.
So do we have well, you can address them to Sue.
You can address them to me, you can send them, do you want email or do you want hard copy? What's your preference?
I think we do email.
Okay, that's fine.
It's fine.
So they can be emailed to zba@townofnewbury.org, that will come right to me, and I will make sure everybody from the board gets it, and it will be added to the record.
All right, thank you.
Is that on the website under ZBA?
Yep.
So, nobody else has it?
Just,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say that, but on that, what you just said, the answer to those questions, will they be sent out that way too? To anyone who's on the answer to email? So if she sends in an email, says X, Y, Z to the ZBA?
Okay, the answers are coming from here, not
Right.
direct emails.
Correct.
So, if you wanna continue the process, you come to all
To
the
the meeting.
hearings.
Okay, cool, that's
And,
all.
things will be addressed, we can't do everything all at once, there's a lot of information to start with. So, we're gonna take it step by step. Any other questions? Okay, so what I'd like to do is, set up a site visit for the board, sometime before our next meeting, which we're proposing for June 29th. I don't know if Sue's forwarded that to you yet or not, but. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you wanna say?
So then Jeff called me and said, "Yeah, you're right. They have a TV and needs more for it." Battery, that's all. Yeah, plug it in. You know, go to the old address. You're an electrician, they should have another plug with it.
Yeah, that's the every day night site visit.
It's only a house.
We're locked into the hearing.
Please depart.
Okay.
Please depart.
The 29th for the next meeting?
For work for you guys?
Yeah, that's fine. Just checking the.
So, I told you I can do both Saturdays. Here, right, during the week, so if you have the audience, and if it's a weekend for you guys, I don't care. I have no problem with that.
My meetings, like yesterday, today I was in the meeting, April, didn't get over to and they come daily, so I'm hard to get into.
That's fine with me.
Otherwise, man, I'd say that a 50-50 chance. chance to look something.
Not a problem at all.
Can I ask you guys just to keep it down, please? Sorry.
Could everybody quiet down a little bit, please? Where did Jeff go? Oh, there you are. Yeah.
It sounds like they're proposing June 10th, which is a Saturday.
Morning.
Morning.
Is that a possibility?
I don't mind. He's paying for me. Double time on Saturday.
What do they gotta get here?
Yeah.
Everyone coming
Is
in.
8 a reasonable time for you? 9? What's better, Jeff?
I don't think I can do the morning of the 10th, at 9.
Can we do a different
I mean,
day?
do I,
Well,
Well,
I mean,
there
do I
has
need
to
to be
be-
there? I mean,
I can,
yeah, I don't think I need to be there for the sidewalk. I mean,
One person.
yeah,
Somebody-
yeah, we can do the 9th, we'll have representation.
Then.
So.
June 10th.
June 10th, excuse me.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock in the morning is fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a major abutter, and I'm already booked on that day, and I feel like I need to see the site. We abut on two sides of the property. I'm
Are
sorry.
they gonna let the public on the site?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I certainly defer to your counsel. I think we need to be careful about the site visit with the board because we can't have, it can't turn into a public meeting.
Right.
You know, there's not gonna.
So there'll be no discussion.
So if
But
you,
I'd
but
like
if
to
you
use
can't,
my eyes to
but if
see
you
things.
can't, I mean, what I would say is, you know, and I understand you're saying you can't be there on the 10th.
I am booked all day.
Well, we'll try to find another time where the public can, you know, we can do another site walk.
Okay, fine.
What time did you decide on?
Well, I'm hoping for 9.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
So,
So what's that, June 10th at 9 o'clock?
Yes, 9 AM.
Could I just ask a policy and procedure question real quick about how the public forum's open 180 days as of yesterday or today? So we're sitting here, people have their comments, concerns, questions. Now, they're voicing them, they're gonna send them in, but as far as you guys go, review from different boards and your review, peer review, how does that all progress as we go along?
yeah, could we have your name?
I'm sorry, Jason Mullen, 45 Pearson Drive.
Okay. We're gonna try to address things, not everything all, you know, in one meeting. So,
I guess that's what I'm asking.
okay,
What
so we're
can
gonna
we
come up.
expect at every meeting?
Okay, we're gonna come up with an agenda for June 29th, which will be, on the website eventually.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so as soon as we come up with something, it'll go on the website, and that will tell you what we plan to address on that night.
And you can sign up, you know, if you don't know, you can sign up on our website to receive those notifications. So when agenda is posted for zoning, you'll be notified and get an email. So that way you don't have to scurry and be checking all the time.
Yes, sir.
I want to just follow up this comment. Will the
Name,
materials, Peter Frangos, 41 Pearson Drive, will materials also be on the website that match the agenda? If you're gonna have an agenda item and there's materials that we can see in advance of the meeting, will they be on the website also?
If there are materials available, provided by the applicant or others, I will do my best to get it on the website
Thank you.
in an orderly way.
It just makes the process more efficient if we can
I
see things
understand, yeah.
similar to that waiver notification, not knowing and seeing it. Had we seen it in advance, it would make it a little easier to understand what's going on. That's all.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, anything you wanna address? before we close the meeting?
Yes, Jeff, some additional information we might have. One of them was, you made a promise to us to give it some stormwater stuff. On your other waivers requested at the bottom, it says applicant intends to prepare. I don't think we have a copy of that. I'd like to see that. It would help a lot with your separation for your infiltration and your in your roadway. We don't have that.
See, you're looking for we have test pits all over the site that were witnessed by the Board of Health. So we do know where the groundwaters are, using soil models.
I've seen some of them. I've seen underneath
Right.
your detention basins. I've seen your 1 foot of separation
Right.
that you've showed.
Right.
So I've seen some of it, but you promised to give a stormwater report and a copy be submitted to the zoning board of appeals. I haven't seen it.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you. Your PNS and your rider on the PNS, there seems to be a lot of inconsistencies in it. You might want to proofread that. And I got a whole bunch of highlighter on the plans, but we can wait till we get into the plans one at a time. But I noticed when you were showing your houses, it looks like your 4-bedroom houses are 5.
4-bedroom houses are,
If you want to put that slide back up, please put up your architectural drawings of the two, not your architectural drawings, the floor plans of the 2 houses.
Would be the second one.
The second house?
Yeah.
Go to the first floor of the second house, please. See that study in the lower right-hand corner? That's a bedroom.
Technically, it's not because it doesn't have a closet and it's not.
Doesn't need a closet.
under Title V.
It's under Title V, that's a bedroom. It has privacy, it has over 70 square feet, it has ceiling height, it's got ventilation. And that's all you, and those are all ands, but it's got all of them.
The windows don't meet egress requirements.
Oh, I don't think every window does, it has to have egress requirement, I'm
So,
not sure.
well, let me just,
These have one.
Title V defines bedrooms. Any room on the second floor that meets those requirements is a bedroom. On the first floor, you can have a study, as long as you don't go over 9 rooms. So if you can't put a room on the second floor and call it a study, and say, well, I have 3 bedrooms because I have a study on the second
They're gonna
floor.
make you divide at that point. I
Title
get that.
V says that's a bedroom. But on the first floor, you can call it a study, and as long as you don't have more than 9 rooms, you are still considered a 4-bedroom house. So this has 4 bedrooms upstairs. It has a family room, a kitchen, a dining, and a study. So there's only 4 rooms there. So it's an 8-room house. They wouldn't consider that a bedroom, and they could actually have 1 more room downstairs. But that's a Board of Health requirement.
I'll let the
So
Board
we
of
will,
Health
right, so, but I just wanted to let you know how that works. Because it's on the first floor, it's not considered a bedroom. If it's on the second floor, you're correct, so. But we run into that all the time. It's a huge issue, so we were careful to make sure that that was taken care of.
And the purpose of the easement is the other thing. The purpose of the easement on the existing house lot that you've got.
You want a written explanation of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing is going to be the stone retaining wall that's in that yard. When was that permitted? You know?
It looks like a long, well, probably, I don't know if it was permitted, it's been there a long time.
It's a nice pond that disappeared behind that, I was doing ice skating when I was a kid.
No, that's all for now. There's a whole lot of other things, but we'll get up to those in different meetings.
We addressed everything. motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Continue.
Continue.